What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special episode of Hops Geek News, a podcast that talks about comic books, movies, TV shows, and of course, we typically feature a beer of the week. Today, we got a special Echo review episode of you.
Review.
Today we have a special Echo review episode for you, where we're going to just discuss the 5 episodes that came out from Marvel Cinematic Studios on Disney Plus. It stars Alika Cox as Maya Lopez, Chasky Spencer as Henry Black Crow Lopez, Cody Lightning as Biscuits, Devry Jacobs as
Love biscuits.
Bonnie. I know. We'll get into that. Vincent D'Onofrio is back as Wilson Fisk, and this show, we have a lot to say. Now, it first actually debuted at a 6.4 out of 10 on IMDb. So it's got decent reviews, nothing crazy. It is the first long awaited MCU project, Spotlight special, if you will, their new Spotlight special. So very short, very brief, 5 episodes, which was actually perfect, I think. You don't always need to have 8 episodes, you don't need to have 10. I think the Spotlight serves as like a quick mini, like comic books. We have a overarching story to tell in comics, and then every so often we have those quick mini issues within an overarching story, which I think is what the Spotlight series kind of serves as. So it was great seeing Vincent back, great seeing
Charlie
Cox
Cox.
back. I don't know why every time I say her name, Alika Cox, I always get like tongue tied. I'm like, oh,
That's like me with the Ninth Doctor, Christopher
Eccleston.
Eccleston. I don't know
Yes,
why. That's an easy name, and yet I get tongue tied every time.
I don't know why either. Like it's
It's
kind of
like there's
crazy.
some words people just like supposedly.
I
Like
can't
there's some
say.
words that just don't work.
They just don't work, man. I promise you, we are educated. But you know me, I can't talk names anyways. Overall, though, it was cool to see her back as Maya. We last saw her in Hawkeye at the end of Hawkeye. She shot Kingpin in the face. Gasp.
Dun
So
dun
this picks up
dun.
pretty much where we left off. Now, episode 1 is a pretty good rundown of her life as a kid. We see in episode 1, she is living in Oklahoma with her family, her parents, and her mom and her go out to get ice cream, leaving Bonnie and her dad behind. And during that, actually, there's an accident where her mom dies in the car accident, and this is where Maya loses her leg. And from
Mm,
there, we kind of
that
go
was
to
an
New
intense
York.
car
It
scene.
was like she took that pretty well, considering like, I
She's
get she was
probably
in
in
shock as a
shock and the
kid,
adrenaline. Yeah.
but that was brutal. And for a second, I also forgot that she lost her leg. Like because in real life, she also, um,
Well, because they don't really focus on it too much in
no,
the show, outside of when she's like a little girl, as far as what I remembered in Hawkeye. And it was the
agreed.
same little girl, which I found out today, that's her cousin,
That's her
which
cousin? No
makes
way.
sense because it looks very much so like her.
Yes, it's the facial
Yeah.
features look very similar, which is pretty cool. So Maya and her dad go to New York City, leaving behind Bonnie and her grandparents. You can see her grandmother's pretty heartbroken. Her grandfather, who is a pretty chill dude overall, I liked him. He was pretty
Yeah, he
funny.
took his daughter's death a little too
Did Graham
calm
Greene
though.
played Scully? Yeah, he was very
Wasn't
chill about it in the hospital.
wasn't he in The Last of Us too when he was married to the
Oh, he
bigger lady
was.
and they were
Yes,
hilarious and he was like, "Oh, you're
yes.
not gonna shoot me." Yeah, he's in a bunch of random things like
He
Dances with Wolves and
He really was
that was so
in a lot
funny.
of things. So he was in The Green Mile, Dances with Wolves, Maverick, Wind River. He
I
was
love
in
him in
Reservation
Maverick.
Dogs.
Isn't that the one where he dresses up like a Native American and he
Yep.
pretends to be hunted?
Yes. Because he actually is something cool. So he is from the Six Nations Reservation in Ontario, Canada, which is pretty solid. And yeah, no, he was great. The he was in The Last of Us, of course, and I totally forgot about that. I knew he looked familiar because I've seen him in 1,000,005 things. It
Well, I
just
think we
took
had
me a
this
little bit.
conversation when we talked about The Last of Us. But yeah, he wasn't in it long at all, but him and his wife were hilarious.
Yes, they really were. They stop in that cabin briefly, and yeah, it was really good. But episode 1, we see Maya kind of run up through the tracksuit mafia, trust a bro moving company, if you will. They do some things. Her dad ends up dying, and that kind of sets her off on the path that we saw in Hawkeye. There's some really cool fight sequences. So they go with two of them to kind of go to this area. They break in. That's kind of Maya's first interaction in fighting, which I thought this entire fight sequence was really, really well
It was
done.
amazing. It was like the oneers and like how they do in
Yeah, the
Daredevil.
one
It just
shot.
reminded me of
Yeah.
Daredevil. Yeah. And I mean, obviously getting to see Charlie Cox as Daredevil, even as little as it was,
You know,
it
I thought
was
he was going to be in it a lot more. I thought he was for some reason. I was surprised by this.
so did I, but I am surprised, but I'm also not surprised because it wasn't really about her relationship with him at all. Like in the
No.
comics, I feel like he has impact on her who she
Well, in
is
the
as far
comics,
as her
they're
origin
romantically,
story.
yeah, intertwined
Yeah.
because he
I'm
also was framed for killing her dad, but they chose Hawkeye for this, of
right.
course.
So I feel like it wasn't necessary to have him in anymore, but I obviously I'm sure we'll see interactions with him in the future.
Oh yeah.
But I did see something today that Marvel did confirm that Daredevil did not blip, and so this interaction happened
Ooh. Oh,
before.
this. Oh, it wasn't during the blip.
No, I think it was during the blip. So they
Oh,
did
okay.
not blip.
That's
Because
cool.
there were theories before. I left my phone in the kitchen, or I would check. There were theories before, though, that Kingpin got big during the blip because Daredevil wasn't there. But obviously, he
Mm.
had to have been there
You
because
know,
this was the
yeah,
first evil thing she was doing for Kingpin.
she was. Yeah, this was like her first big thing, and that's when Daredevil and that fight again. That fight sequence was awesome, and then it leads us up to the Hawkeye interactions where it finds out that hey, Kingpin's responsible for your dad's death. Leads off with her shooting him. It was like a really recap episode, which was episode one, which also is interesting because I hope in the Daredevil series, I know she's coming back. And I know Kingpin is. I kind of what they did is they now made the Netflix series canon. Are they going to explain him going away from murder like twice at all?
Yeah, they better. I was wondering about that too. And, one of the things I heard what they're doing with the Spotlight is these are projects that you can watch if you haven't watched everything. And I thought they did a beautiful job of catching everybody up in the first 30 minutes. And I had checked Legends. If anybody's not familiar on Disney Plus, there's a thing called Legends,
Yeah.
and they always just do recaps of everything. But like before you go see the Marvels, there's a recap of Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau. They always do that. And I went the other day and I was like, what the hell? Why is there none for Echo? And it was because they didn't need it. They recapped it in the show. So I'm guessing maybe they will do that for Daredevil. I have also heard that while this is now canon, that they might ignore some things. And also the
Mm,
timeline is, we're venturing into Doctor Who territory. It's a little wibbly wobbly. Like we now have two branches from
yeah.
our original MCU timeline, one with Loki and one without. So I'm not, I mean, which branch are we on?
I am. Yeah, it is a little confusing. I do hope we get clarity for that because I feel like one thing Marvel's done post Endgame is they've got things like they've really introduced a lot of characters and then just like kind of left them dangling.
Yeah.
Like, luckily,
Yeah.
of course, Maya's come back, so they haven't left her dangling. But like Shang-Chi,
Eternals.
the
Yeah.
Eternals,
Shang-Chi,
all these other characters that they introduced and they've never
Dane
circled back
Whitman,
around. Yeah, like Dane Whitman's in it.
Blade,
But
Pip.
we might get Blade eventually, but
Okay. Okay. So the actor who was cast for Blade, though,
Marshall Ali, yes.
is the Cobra guy from Luke Cage. So now you
Yes.
have two
And,
characters
and,
now.
and it's Netflix's they've
Yes.
confirmed him as canon. So I wonder if we're just gonna like ignore that
Is it going to be
entirely
his
or
twin, or they just? I mean, they say
it
everybody has a
could.
doppelganger somewhere. Also, the evil lady from Luke Cage. I can't remember her name. She
I
was the
don't
one that like
either.
ran the club or whatever. She's also the one whose son died in Sokovia, and she yelled at
Oh
Tony and gave him
yeah.
his picture.
Oh, that's right.
So,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
so
Oh
that's
my
at least
gosh.
two people. Hey, Starlight's in
I
Jessica
do.
Jones.
I am curious how this will all play out. Are we going to get like another Defenders? Are we going to do street level stuff? Like, how are they going to play with this? Because Echo leads right into Daredevil, which is going to be 18 episodes and all that stuff. So I am curious. But in episode two, so we saw her going back to Oklahoma where her family is. And this introduces us to my two of my like favorite characters of the series. I thought they really stole the show. Cody Lightning as Biscuits and Chasky Spencer as her cousin Henry Black Crow Lopez, who owns the skating rink, the roller rink, which those two I thought were phenomenal
Fantastic.
characters. Biscuits has limited time because in this one, Biscuits helps her. She's gonna go blow up one of Wilson Fisk's armory on the train, which it does, and then that sets off a whole chain of events of Wilson Fisk now knows that she's there and they're coming after her. But I thought it was pretty cool. Like not a whole lot of action in this one necessarily, but I liked how ride or die Biscuits was. He was just like, "Oh, sure, let's do it." And then
And
she's
the
taken
grandma
off on
knew he's going to be
yes.
influenced.
And then they borrow her the grandma's truck, and he's like, all right, you're hopped on a train, and then she's like, track me, and then next thing you know, he's just driving through the forest in the dead
It's
of
like
night
I'm
with his
on a
dog, and
mission.
yes, and he was so ride or die. It was he a real big standout. He brought so much fun to this. I gotta say that.
Yeah, you always need that lightheartedness in some of this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And this was like a overall pretty heavy series too, but which it kind of should
Very.
be. It was a lot of loss, a lot of grief, a lot of childhood trauma took place, especially for Maya. And I thought one of the cool things that they added in was the whole Choctaw aspect too. Like the whole series kicks off with the children. It reminds me of the Children of the Forest from Game of Thrones, I guess, because they created life, but that's not what it is. It
Uh,
just in my head, that's what I want to keep calling them.
it made me
Uh,
think of that What If episode. Like they came
yes.
through,
Oh yeah, with Kahori. Yeah.
yeah, from like the
Ooh.
Tesseract or whatever.
I wonder if they're gonna build into that because now we have two Native American heroes in the MCU,
Yeah, and one's
and
completely brand new, so
yeah,
they have a white canvas to play with.
that would be really cool.
Yeah, and that one female actress that first came out, she was in the new Dexter, and I love her. I've seen her in
Hmm.
something else too. Oh, she was in some movie I think you made me watch.
I don't remember her at all.
She lost her kid and she was married to Hawkeye. And then Scarlet and then Scarlet Witch was in it too. And she was like a
What?
cop that showed up.
I don't think I've seen this.
I
I don't
could
think it
have
was me.
sworn you're the one that told me. Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
If you look it up, yeah. So all right, episode 3 takes us to now Wilson Fisk's gang is coming after Maya Lopez. She got her leg damaged in the train. You know, her prosthetic was damaged in the train, and this is when she kind of first realizes at the
Still
end of
cringed.
episode.
Even though it was a
Oh, me
prosthetic, I
too.
still cringed.
Well, this was really cool. So like, the power of the Choctaw people, like, passed through her ancestors to her, and she had this ability to where like I guess she had her power is strength. I'm
It was a little
guessing.
confusing at times because then it was also like healing like her mom.
Yeah, I was a
I
little
don't know, maybe they just
confused.
give them what they need in that moment.
Maybe.
I'm not certain. And I saw there was
Uh
speculation that somebody was thinking that might be a mutant power and that the mutant
oh.
power is genetic and that's why it's passing down through the
Oh,
women.
that would
Oh,
be
isn't it
cool.
usually the dads that carry the gene per X-Men? I
I
believe it was
mean,
the
yeah,
dad.
but really, it could be anybody. Who knows? That would be cool. But yeah, she
Yeah.
was able to get her leg free, and then this is when she goes to her grandpa Scully, and he makes her a temporary leg while he makes her a real legit one. And in episode 3, we see Fisk's crew, which is led by Andrew Howard, aka Zane, who has his like Cajun accent. I want to say, is it like Cajun? Is that what his accent was?
I don't know. Wind River. That was the movie.
Oh, I've never seen Wind River, so definitely wasn't me.
Oh, well then who told me to watch that movie?
I would watch anything that Elizabeth Olsen's in, so I probably should watch Wind. Maybe it was Sean because I remember Sean talked about it. So I don't know. Maybe I did. I
So it
don't think
came
I've
out
seen it.
in 2017. It also has John Bernthal in it.
Oh wow, that's a stacked cast.
And no, yeah, that's her. Is it Julia Jones? I think is her.
Huh.
Yep, that's her, Julia Jones. So now this movie has another Marvel person in it. Yeah,
Interesting.
that was the one where like their daughter had died and she was like a teenager, and then Jeremy Renner and her end up like getting divorced.
Mhm.
But they still have another kid, and then another death happens, and then Elizabeth Olsen comes for she's a cop or something. I don't remember. It was worth watching.
I'll check it out.
Okay, I'm off
But
my
yeah,
tangent.
Zane leads the crew. They come there. They pretty much the snitch that works at the who cleans the shoes and
Vicky.
stuff at the roller rink. Yes, Vicky, played by Thomas Sullivan, kidnaps not only Chasky, Spencer, Henry, but also Maya, puts them away, and then Bonnie shows up because Bonnie found out through biscuits that Maya's back. Now Bonnie hasn't seen Maya in 20 years. Maya, went off on her own path. She chose to ignore her, which was a very sad kind of thing because they were sisters, more or less. Uh, and at this point, they're really cool. Like that one, like overweight, trashy looking girl. I felt bad because I was like, yo, she's
Trailer
like
Park People.
trailer park trash that reminds me of my childhood, and I hope she gets her ass beat. Which she ends up getting her ass beat, of course. It was really cool though when Bonnie and Maya got back together. You can see their connection. She was like, "Dude, I texted you like after your dad died, I would have been there." And Maya's very standoffish.
Yeah. Well,
She says
she's
a lot.
somebody you don't need to text her. If you need anything, let me know. You need to just be there for somebody like that.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, Maya was kind of down this path, and she obviously
Yeah.
wanted Bonnie, who's a cop or firefighter, to stay like very separate lives. That was her previous life. Now she's in a new life with Fisk.
Yeah,
all
it's
that kind
always
of stuff.
interesting to me in movies and TV shows when they leave somewhere as a child and don't go back for literal years.
Hmm.
And then they come back and it's like their memories are still like fresh. Like if I think of like a family member who I've only met, I haven't seen since I was 7, like that relationship's not very fresh in my head. Whereas they
No,
always seem to be very fresh. And it's like her dad never once went, I mean, she ends up yelling at her grandma for it. And I think rightfully so in a later episode.
yeah,
But I always think that's very, very interesting that they never
agreed.
go back.
I
They
do
do it in
too.
everything, in rom
They
coms
really do.
too.
Like, you've never once gone back in 20. I mean, I guess there's a lot of like trauma. So her mom died, so she didn't want to go, but her family's still there. Like, her grandparents never once saw her. Like,
They never want to go to New York for Christmas.
that's what I'm saying. Like, you've never saw any of them. That's kind of weird. But one of the
Yeah,
really standouts for me in this episode was the entire fight sequence in the roller rink. Like the use of Rob Zombie's Dracula mixed in with like the
that was fun.
darkness and Maya just coming through, and like the standout in this entire series is very like fluid. The fights, man, the fights are so well choreographed. And
Especially when they're silent.
yes, and that's the thing, the use of sound. I love it because Maya doesn't really talk. Like, she can, because you hear her kind of whispering the words as she signs, but she doesn't really talk. So it's like silent. She's shooting everybody. Hitting them with
So creative. And
speedballs.
I mean,
Yeah.
she put that like one little gun thingy together. Like
Yes. The
she's
little like
obviously
nail
very
gun.
intelligent. Yeah. But I also wonder if some of that intelligence comes from the fact that she has the power to mimic or echo people. So if she saw
Ooh,
somebody
yeah.
put something together, could she then just do that? So it's
I would
not
think
like
so, yeah.
she figured it out, but she can, yeah. So if she was around anybody who was able to do that, then she could have just picked it up like that. It's like a
That's what I
photographic
was thinking too. Like,
memory, I
she has that
guess.
photographic ability, right? One thing I did have a question from, because it didn't look like they brought that many guys with them, and then she seemed to have like shot 10 of them, and
They
then
just
somehow
kept
there's 20 of
showing
them.
up.
And then when
I
she gets kidnapped, like somehow there's 20 of them again, and it's like, what?
guess they knew what they were getting themselves into.
Yeah. And that ends the episode where Zane is about to kill them both, Henry and Maya, but a phone call comes through as Lauren dies. A phone call comes through, and he looks very confused. They call off the fight, and that means only one thing. That's Wilson Fisk. So episode 4 picks up with Wilson Fisk entering the fray. He has come to Oklahoma himself. As you can see, he is not blind. He has one eye. And something they did really cool in this episode was the technology they used to implant in his eye, and then he put something on her so that way every time he talks, she sees a digital version of him signing. And I thought that was super freaking cool.
That was pretty cool. But it also goes against some everything like she believes in as far as, using
The
technology to
technology,
get
yeah.
by, like, what she said to Clint in Hawkeye.
But it's her
Sorry.
second dad. So in a way, it's showing that he wants to communicate directly with her and not through anybody else anymore.
But she even says, I think in the last episode, you never truly cared about me or you would have learned sign. And you see all these
Ah, yes.
people who truly do care about her that she hasn't seen in 20 years are still completely fluent in sign.
That's
And
true.
after her mom and her left, nobody else there is deaf that they showed in the family. I do like though that you see the family communicating with each other through sign language, like
Yeah.
Bonnie and the other dude were doing it, and I thought that was really cool to see. So you still saw the family casual. I mean, I do that with my kids sometimes when I'm, I'll
It
sign
comes in
like
handy.
shoots now. Yeah,
It does. Yeah. And they go and have a family dinner because they was like, we haven't had a Sunday family dinner in a while. And she's like, but it's Thursday. I thought that was a really funny line. There's a lot of humor there. They go to her house, and he sees a picture of her whole entire family, of course. And she's like, I'm going to go pour the wine. She dumps it. They sit down. He's like, where's the wine? She was like, I poured it in the sink. And he was like, it came highly recommended. There's just like some good
why the hell she did
interactions
that?
there.
She was just trying to be like, "Fuck you."
I was kind of mad. Like, I don't want to waste a good wine. I like a good wine, man. I really do.
I felt like she was like a toddler in that scene, just kind of pushing her limits.
She
Like,
was.
what
Oh,
what can I get
definitely.
away with?
You can
Like,
see it. Like,
yeah, I
I
shot him in the
seen.
face and he came back.
Right. And that's why she's testing her limits. Like, I shot you. You should be like strangling me. I've seen you, you know, kill, because there's a scene. I can't remember if it was episode 4 or 5. I think it was episode 5, wasn't it? To kick off that episode where he sees
The
the
ice
ice
cream
cream
guy.
man deny her ice cream. And so he goes to the alley and just beats him within an inch of his life. And then
Yeah,
Maya's standing right there and sees it. And he's like, oh God, panicked because he didn't want her to see that. And then she comes up and starts kicking the ice cream man. I was like, dang.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, she had some, serial killer
She definitely
tendencies as
did.
a child. But, it's interesting because so, if I were to get flicked off driving, I don't think much of it. Somebody flicked Kaylee off when she was driving one time, and I wanted to hunt them down and murder them for flicking off
It's the
my
things you'll do for
child.
your kids. Yeah.
So, right, because so if this guy had been a dick to him, he may have been pissed and whatever, but I don't think he would have gone that. It's like, you mess with the kid and like Kaylee didn't even see the person. It was like she missed, it was a roundabout thing and she had gone like, and then she stopped and she like apologized and it was some young kid like, and I was like, I was
Let's
seeing
go
red,
beat his
man.
ass right now.
Ah, let's go follow him. And
Let's do
Kaylee
it.
was laughing at that point because she didn't even see it happen. And I was so mad.
But it does go show. And at the end of episode 4, he pays a visit to Chula. He's talking to her
Oh,
and
he's so subtle and
yeah.
creepy.
And was it also episode 4 where Maya paid a visit to Chula as well? Or was it episode 5 where they have that sit down talk? I think it was 5, wasn't it?
I don't remember. It might
I
have been,
think it might have been 5. So if it one or the other, Maya ends up sitting down because Scully, it turns out Scully and Chula got divorced and
which was sad,
Skull
but
it was
everybody
actually pretty
handles
sad.
grief differently. So I'm guessing she was
Not
probably upset that he wasn't as upset as she was
right.
because
Yeah,
I feel
she
like
was still willing to talk to the
she was
family.
very much so the you could tell the gas for the divorce. I mean, he even
Yes.
hit on her later.
Mhm.
That's why I was confused if they were together or not
I would
because they
yeah,
had a
same.
yeah
And he even kept the sewing machine,
yeah
from
and
a
tried
long
to have
time
sex with
ago.
her in his shop.
Yes. And but there's a line where he's basically like, you never listen to Maya. And so there's a
Don't talk to her. Listen, yeah.
yeah, there's a roundabout scene where it comes full circle where they're sitting at the table, and this is where Maya brings up that I've been seeing things that feel real, like I don't know if they're dreams. Chula says it's the power of the ancestors. I had it, and we find out that Maya's mom was a healer. She had it. She healed everybody else but herself, because she heals the bird that Maya knocks out of the tree. Pretty messed
You
up.
probably can't heal
I
yourself.
know, I know. I
If
was just
that's your
talking crap,
power,
but
like Wolverine can't heal other people, but he can heal himself.
right. And I thought it was, she had that suit and everything. And so there's a good sit down, very emotional moment between the two of them, basically like, I'm sorry. I should have told you. I'm sorry for not being there. And again, this show did a really good job hitting on the emotional moments. I will give it that.
And I love when they make the adults take accountability because I can't
Yes.
stand in shows when you see, well, you could have reached out too. No, there is always a hierarchy between parent and child. I don't care the age. And like Bobby even has a line in Supernatural where he sees his dad, like the episode where he's running from the Reaper. And he's like, yeah, well, you did this. He's like, I was a child. Children are supposed to be ungrateful and selfish and break your heart. And like Maya had
Yeah,
no
it's true.
responsibilities to her grandmother, but I loved that she called her grandmother out, like she was a child. And I feel very adamant about that I mean, obviously there are extents where you have to cut people off and whatnot, but I feel very much so that
Right.
children are children forever and you always owe your children more than your children owe you. And that goes to grandchildren as well. So I loved that scene. Not much was said, but so much was said at the same time.
I couldn't agree more. That's really well put, honestly. Yeah, because it's true. I mean, I've seen it to where like, if I don't reach out to my family at time, they just, I never hear from them. But it's like, dude, like it works both ways. It's the old age thing of I've been in, I haven't lived at home for 12 years now because of my job, and yet it's always when you come to visit, when are you doing this, when are you doing that, and it's never like, hey, can we come to you? Like
Yeah.
it's never it's a two-way street is what I'm getting at. And I've bent over backwards and I got to a certain point myself where I'm like, I don't owe you to come back. Like I'm gonna go see the
Right. Well,
world.
you're the child. Like my
Yeah.
mom will bend over backwards to be like, I will drive to you, pick up the kid and drive home and do this and do that, whatever I can to see
My
to
parents
see
would
you or
never,
the
man. I
kids.
lived an hour away and it was always when are you coming down here? So it was crazy. But
Yeah.
I digress. Childhood trauma. We've all got it in some
And I
form or
mean,
another.
that's what this show's about is
It
childhood
really
trauma.
is. It's processing grief, right? And that's a lot of what phase 4 was. This is phase 5, of course, but
Yes.
phase 5 still
Keep
processing
forgetting
some
we're in
grief and
phase
things.
five. When
But
did
this
phase
leads
five start?
with Ant-Man.
Oh, okay. What was right
Yeah.
before Ant-Man? Was it
Mm,
Spider-Man? No. Spider-Man's been a few years now. I don't
Spider-Man
even
was a
know.
couple years ago. I can't remember. I have to go back and look. We'd have to go back and look. But this whole thing leads like Kingpin's basically, hey, I'm leaving tomorrow. I hope you're on that plane. She pays him a visit, says F you.
So
Now
angry.
this culminates at a big Choctaw like party festival that they have. It's really beautiful. Maya shows up. The Kingpin and his minions are there, and it's a big showdown. where old boy Zane even has an RPG on ice, which I found hilarious. He pulls a rocket launcher out and then like from a cooler
Out
of
of a
ice.
Yeti.
Yeah.
That was a nice Yeti,
It
man.
was crazy. And then Biscuits, man, my boy Biscuits coming through with his monster truck, crushes the two
Oh,
trucks full of bad guys.
okay, we skipped the most hilarious line ever, though, when Biscuits was like, I guess, putting together the truck or something. His friend's like, you can have anything the light touches. And in my head,
Oh,
I'm
he
like,
was like, wasn't that Lion King?
yes. And he said what we were thinking because I was
In
100%
my
thinking
mind, as
Lion
soon as he
King.
said it, Carrie and I looked at each other like, isn't that Lion King? And then he goes, wait, that's Lion King. He goes, yes, but it's still fits.
I need to pull that or maybe just record it because I want to put that after the David Tennant. Because remember, that was when I fell in love with David Tennant.
Yeah,
His very
yeah.
first appearance, he started quoting the Lion King.
Yes, yeah. And I always love when like because we were all thinking it, and so for them to be like, wasn't that Lion King? Man, again, Biscuits is a standout character. But we get
Yeah.
like a good fight sequence, which leads to in this tent a showdown with Kingpin's men. They have them, Bonnie and Chula are at gunpoint, and Maya channels the ancestors again. She does this really cool, and she gives the power to Bonnie and Chula, and they fight off the bad guys, which is really cool. Like Grandma Chula out there kicking that ass, and
Yeah.
pretty
She
much,
just whoosh, and like
yeah.
knocks the person out.
And so Maya goes up and puts her hand on Vincent or Kingpin's head, and he's transported back to his childhood again because he introduced her to the hammer and told her the story about how his
Which
father
is a
would beat the mom.
different hammer. It's not
Yeah,
the same
it's
hammer.
not. And he tells her the story about how he killed his dad because his dad would beat his mom, and then he gave her the hammer and was like, "Do it."
Which is
Basically, like playing the
similar.
victim, which I don't ever like when somebody tries to play the victim like that.
I just realized Bobby and Kingpin have the same origin story.
Ooh, they do.
So your life can go two very different ways if you are
Yes.
forced to kill your father to protect
My
your mother.
Faja. But yeah, so she doesn't do it. He's like, how did you do that? And then he kind of skimpers away and thus ends the series. But there's a good post credit scene where Kingpin's on the plane. He's sitting there contemplating life and he's watching the news. And now there's a New York mayoral race, and they're talking about somebody that's willing to fight and do all the dirty things that New York needs. And so it looks like we're going to be getting Mayor Kingpin in the Daredevil series because this leads right into Daredevil.
Wasn't he trying to run
He was, yeah.
in
When he got,
Daredevil?
he was.
Okay, because for a second I started to think like, oh, maybe this takes place before that, and then I was like, no, because
No,
this was clearly after the blip. So that's,
maybe like it's canon, but we're just going to retcon some things. I don't really know
or
because
maybe
where's
because,
Vanessa? Are they going to
yeah,
bring her
I
back?
know, I don't
The
know. They didn't
Yeah,
even mention her.
Foggy, Karen, Vanessa. Like those are the three main characters we're missing from. If we're making these shows canon, you can't
But you
pick and
would,
choose.
but he decided to go back to jail to protect Vanessa, so it would make sense that Vanessa is not
Listen,
around
American
anymore.
politics, we've already shown that Americans will vote in a criminal, right? So really this is pretty realistic. Just saying, look at the 2024 election race. But neither here nor there, this is not a political show. Yeah, so overall thoughts on the series. I thought the show was good. I feel like I don't know, there was something missing for me to make it truly great. I thought the trauma, I thought Maya, Alka Cox was absolutely phenomenal as Echo. I want more of her so bad. Wilson Fisk, like Vincent D'Onofrio's amazing. I've talked about Biscuits, how he's my favorite character. Everybody did a really good job. The acting was great. The action was great. The emotional beats were there. I just think my overall problem was maybe there were some pacing issues to which might have thrown me off. So personally, I was like, this is like a 6 out of 10 show, but I think it's 7 out of 10. Honestly, it's a good show. It's worth watching. The five
Mm-hmm.
episodes are worth watching. Now, is it the best Marvel show out there? No, and it doesn't need to be because I think what this did for like the Choctaw people, the Native Americans, for women superheroes, and for like deaf children out there to see they're a superhero, all of that kind of stuff. I thought that did what other heroes have done for other people. Like it's really cool.
And they did a great job with the sign language.
Oh, phenomenal job with the sign language. And again, I can't say it enough. So I think my issues really lie with the pacing, which allowed me or didn't really allow me to fully love it the way I think a lot of other people did. And if you loved it, great. I got no hate. I don't hate this show. It's good. I will probably watch it again and see how I feel. But what were
Yeah.
your thoughts?
I did love it. Again, it's not one of my favorites. I would probably give it an 8 out of 10. What was interesting is that the show was so grounded in real like grief and trauma and dealing with family issues, and her finding her place, like it was basically Fisk was Vader, and like, do you go
True.
light side
Yeah.
or dark side? So she was really struggling with that, and in the end she basically did what Luke did. She let this guy die that's a father figure, at the very end, hoping he would go light side, although he didn't go fully light side, but he's also still alive.
Yes.
But no, I thought it was fantastic. I thought they did a great job of incorporating some of the Native American aspects of it. I got emotional when you saw all these like female badasses, supporting her. I thought that that
Hmm.
was really cool, and I also loved her as Echo. We definitely didn't get it because she wasn't fleshed out in Hawkeye. She was just somebody who was just angry, and we didn't have enough time to
Right.
focus on
Yeah.
her and hear her and
It
talk.
wasn't her show, so we didn't need the character develop
Right, she
necessarily in
was
that. Yeah.
she wasn't cannon fodder, but she was just a supporting background character that a lot of people didn't even know about. The show wasn't about her, so no, I thought this was fun. I loved every single fight scene was amazing, and to see her with the prosthetic or without, like, you'd have no freaking idea.
I
And I
had no
loved
idea. Yeah.
in the fight scene too when she sees the one guy that, like, I think it was the guy that like felt her up, and she signed to him something like, "Oh, you, like, I'm coming to get you," and
Yes,
then she
yes. I did forget about that when they were initially walking in and he was like turned around, felt her up, and she pushed off. Yeah, that very first fight scene, and she beat his ass down. It was great. I loved that. Yes.
I love that she
Thought
took
about
the
that.
time to sign at him, like,
Specifically,
oh,
you.
yeah. And like, you don't know. I mean, obviously, you don't need to know what she's signing there to know what she's
Right.
inferencing. Yeah.
No,
But
it was
no,
good.
I thought it was great. Definitely not in my top, but
But
I
it
really
doesn't,
don't have any
again, it doesn't
complaints.
have to be, and I
Right.
think being grounded like it was honestly refreshing too. I felt because we've had these grand stories of space and
It was very
everything's a world ending
small.
event. So to like have something take place in a small middle of the nowhere Oklahoma town, it was kind of nice, I thought.
Right. It was very contained, closed story. And I know Sean from Metal Core Nerds was talking in the Discord how it's the ground drama. That's it's
Yeah.
setting up
I
for
want to
the
get
things in
more
New
of that.
York and everything. But it also has potential to open up to something wider with these ancestors, and where did they come from and what are these powers? So we don't fully know what these actual powers are, because her
Yep.
powers in the comic were always just mimicking.
Right. Yeah. She never had any celestial type powers like she seems to in now. And I think that's cool because she's a character that it would benefit, I think, or not even benefit. I just think it's cool to like add on to her abilities and build onto her comic book lore. And again, this is like one of those comic series is where you take a step back, it's a mini run, and it kind of refreshes you in a way.
I do wonder how many things though are being dropped right now, that are going to be played with more once the
Yeah,
X-Men are introduced. Because I read something today that said that they're not allowed to use the X-Men characters in What If. They
until
want to
they appear.
introduce them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, well, we want to play with all the toys, and they can't
Well,
yet.
like,
So,
hurry up, man. Like, let's get this fantastic forecasting out. Let's get these X-Men
right. Are you
rolling.
all of a
Good
sudden going to
God.
have like half the world all of a sudden has superpowers? Like, that's going to be a little bit hard
Right.
to
Just
explain.
hurry up. I'm not getting younger, is all I have to say. And the world's not getting any less dicey out there. So let's chop chop, Feige. Let's get this shit going.
Boy,
But
yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, that was our Echo recap. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for this little mini sode, if you will.
Do
As
we know when the
always,
next Marvel project is, or
we
is it
have
just Deadpool in
Dare.
July?
No, X-Men 97 should be coming out, the cartoon, anytime now, right?
But that's not going to be connected to the MCU.
No. So the next MCU is Daredevil. There's only one this
Oh,
year,
Daredevil's
Daredevil.
coming out this year.
No. Oh, I meant Deadpool. Sorry, it's Deadpool.
Oh, got me excited.
No,
I thought we were going to get
Daredevil
that
is
before
beginning
Deadpool.
production. Deadpool. Too many D's, man.
Is July.
July 26th
Okay.
is Deadpool, and I think that's going to be our next taste of the MCU. So we kind of get
Oh
to
my
take a step
god. I
back.
feel like 2020
Yes,
all over again.
we have to take a step back. We get one big one that's going to really send shockwaves through, and we'll see what happens from there. So as always, like, subscribe, share, follow Hops Geek News anywhere that you can find podcast here on YouTube, uh, social media. Hang out with us, join the Discord, all that kind of good stuff. And MegaCon is coming up February 1st through 4th. We are going to have 2 panels and we have press passes. We will be there all over the place. If you see us, find us, whatever it may be. We're going to be doing lots of cool stuff, lots of things to give away. And so, yeah, we're really excited for that. Make sure you come see us at Megacon Orlando, February 1st through 4th. We'll catch you guys next time. Cheers.